A very warm welcome to all distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and enthusiastic participants. I am truly delighted to see such a dedicated gathering here at Pantnagar, ready to embark a journey on learning and innovation. On behalf of CABM Pantnagar, I, Ritika Bhatt, course coordinator of the coordinator, Dr. Ashutosh Singh, to please welcome our esteemed guests. We are especially honored to have with us today. We are particularly honored to have amongst us international faculty Dr. Krishna Nemali, Purdue University, US. Your presence and expertise, sir, and global perspective are invaluable to this course. In this sequence, I also welcome the leader of the institute, Dr. R.S. Jadhav, Dean CABM, for his benign presence. My heartfelt welcome to our speaker during the course, Dr. Ranjan Srivastav, Professor, Department of Horticulture, Pantnagar. Sir, please, most welcome. We do not have Dr. Deepak Kumar. He's one of the speakers here. We are honored to have with us and look forward for insightful sessions ahead. Dear participants, most welcome. We are really excited to have you all here on board, and we have got a great session planned for all of you. Further, I welcome the entire gathering, the faculty members and the staff and the students of CABM. Thank you so much. Moving ahead, may I now request the course coordinator of the course, Dr. Ashutosh Singh, to please give an overview of the course. Thank you, sir, please.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellor for today, Dr. Deepa Vinay ma'am, Dr. Krishna Nemali, international expert from Purdue University, Dr. R.S. Jadhav sahab, the Dean of the College, my fellow coordinator, Dr. Riti. It is my profound duty to make you aware about the theme of the course. In fact, this course was not initially given to College of Agribusiness Management. Let me frankly admit this thing. In fact, Dr. Ranjan has developed the entire theme of the course. He has submitted it to the GIAN National Agency along with Dr. H.J. Shivapasad Sahab, who is the local coordinator for GIAN program and as well as acting as the Director International Affairs. So meanwhile, I don't know whether we were really interested to take this program in College of Agribusiness Management or not, but he was kind enough to gift this program to us. And we took this program with an open hand, and Dr. R.S. Jadhav Sahab, the Dean of the college, was also kind enough to allow us to take this program in this college. Otherwise, this program was basically meant for either College of Agriculture or College of Technology. But we were lucky enough to have this program in College of Agribusiness Management. That's why this program is being organized here itself. The theme of the program is well known to all the distinguished participants who come across the different institutions and different backgrounds. There are the scientists from Uttarakhand Biotech Council. Dr. Sumit is there, Ms. Kanchan is there, Dr. Manind Mohan is there. I can also see the participant from other academic institutions as well as from the corporate side itself. There are the delegates from startup ventures as well. I welcome all of them. In fact, the theme of the program is to make you acquainted that how we should fight with the weather conditions, bad weather conditions, whether it is up the ground or down the ground, below the ground, right? So greenhouse management technology is not new to us. Greenhouse management technology is something what we are doing since last many years, but we are trying to learn it from a new perspective, from a new paradigm, and from the new angle. As Dr. Nemali would be delivering us different talks. There are 18 lectures scheduled for him. There are 9 tutorials, and meanwhile, me, Dr. Ritika, Dr. Shivapasad, and Dr. Deepak Kumar, who is again faculty into this program, shall be sharing our experiences and learnings with the delegates. So we will try to know that what is the difference in greenhouse management in India and in US, because most of the lectures would be attributed to what are the practices adopted in United States of America regarding this greenhouse management, and what are the new learning edge, cutting edge technologies into this field. With this, I end up my statements and ask Dr. Ritika to take this program further, please.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed a candid and clear picture of the entire 10-day course that we are going to have ahead. And it reflects that the course is meticulously designed to have an overview, not only just overview, but in-depth knowledge about the greenhouse management and the real dynamic world what we require right now that would be dealt in the coming days. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you our distinguished faculty joining us all the way from US, Dr. Krishna Nemali. Dr. Nemali is an associate professor in the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture at Purdue University. He holds a PhD in and MS in horticulture from the University of Georgia. His professional experience spans academia and industry, including roles as an assistant professor and extension specialist at Purdue, a control environment crop physiologist at Monsanto, and a postdoctoral researcher at University of California, Davis. He has been recognized for his contribution to teaching, extension, and entrepreneurship. He is an active member of professional societies such as American Society of Horticultural Science and has served as a chair of the Indiana Flower Growers Association. His research focuses on smart agriculture technology, particularly smartphone-based plant nitrogen estimation and control environment farming. He has also
Well, good morning. I actually don't need the mic. I can speak quite loud. Okay. I'm very happy to be here today. Um, it's an honor to be here, and thank you, Doctors Ashutosh Singh, Dr. Ranjan Srivastava, Dr. Vinay, and Dr. Jadon for inviting me, and Dr. Ritika for introducing me. I really appreciate this, and I'm honored to be here. Although I'm not a citizen of this country, this is my mother country. This is where I'm born, and so I cannot. I was talking to Jadao about that. We cannot let go of ties, isn't it? So I'm you basically. All right. That said, I think Dr. Singh mentioned accurately. I was wondering last night, what should I talk? They gave me 5 minutes to say, so what should I talk? And I think what I want to really say is this: climate change is real. Global warming is real. Okay, people have different thoughts about it. People can claim different things, but it is real. So, what is the evidence? Let me give you some small examples. In the last, let's just take 2024. The temperature in India was the warmest in 2024. That's the reason for that is the carbon dioxide levels were at the highest in the last 2 million years. Okay. The last decade, temperature was warmest globally for the last 150,000 years. The glaciers are melting. On an average, 1.2 trillion tons of ice is melting every year. This is happening in Himalayas, pretty close to where you live, isn't it? And this is causing flooding and also droughts, interestingly. This is the evidence. And so on one side, we have global warming, and then now look at Indian perspective. 1.5 billion people, 150 crores of people. When there are more people, you need more food. If there is no food, there is no peace. Wars happen, people fight, terrorism happens, everything happens because of that. So when we have so much population growth, on one side, climate change is affecting agricultural crop production, extreme weather. We want to be prepared for the future, and that future is not that far. I'm talking about 2030, 2040, 2050. By this time, if India doesn't do something big, there's going to be shortage of food. I know the government of India and several non-governmental organizations are working very hard to take care of this. Universities are collaborating. They're developing new technologies, new varieties, new cultural practices. One of those platforms that may be really potential, that may have real potential value, are greenhouses. In greenhouses, you can produce crops throughout the year in harsh climates, in middle of urban areas. So this platform may be a solution for the potential food crisis you may see because of the global warming in the future. This has been already seen by many Western countries, Israel, United States, UK, the Netherlands. They're already up there. They are developing technologies that will help them to grow more with less space, with less water, with less resources, so that food becomes available. What I want to really do in this particular course is to bring that knowledge, research-based knowledge, to young generations like you. You are the stars of this program. We're all just sitting here, but you are the real stars. You are the future. We want to see some of you become teachers. We want to see some of you become researchers. We want to see some of you become entrepreneurs in this area and take this forward to the next generation. And my attempt is a small one. I'm trying to come here and train you with just those basics that will take you up there, give you that next step, so you can really go forward with that interest and with that background and explore more. Okay? I'm going to talk about a lot of the environmental aspects. How do you grow crops? What do you need to know about environment? How do you manage environment inside greenhouses? Like Dr. Singh mentioned, we're going to talk a lot about smart sensors, IoT, data logging systems, and all of that, the technology piece and the management piece. Both will be combined here. Okay? Now, the most important thing, like I said, you are the stars. If you sit quiet, if you sit calm, just try to listen to me, you will learn something, but not a lot. But if you are interactive with each other, if you're asking questions, you are going to be active, if you're going to challenge me with these questions, you will learn more. It's just not that. You will make me a lot more active. Okay? So this is what I would expect from you. I'm going to set the bar high for you. I teach to students like you. My class is just exactly the same stage, same size. So I'm very happy to see all of you, but you need to challenge me. You need to stop and ask me the question. Don't assume everything that, okay, this is what it is, he said it, it's correct. No, don't do that. Challenge me and let's take this in a more interactive way so you learn what you need to know in the next 10 days. It's going to be intense. I don't want you to miss any class unless it is absolutely required. Okay, it's going to be intense. It's going to be fast-paced, but we will do that. All right? But at the end of the day, my goal is to train you with that, to create that interest. I was talking with Dr. Vinay earlier. Teaching is the noblest profession. Teach that to others. Make them talk, but we'll stop right here and enjoy it. Most important, enjoy it. This is the best part of it. Okay? Thank you very much.
Segment for our program now, the felicitation of our esteemed guests here. So we are honored to recognize and express our gratitude to the
No problem. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I humbly request you to please say a few words on this day, please.
Respected Chief Guest, Dr. Deepa Vinay, Registrar and Acting Vice Chancellor of the day, esteemed resource person, Dr. Tisna Nemoli, Associate Professor from Purdue University, course coordinators, Dr. Ashutosh Singh, Dr. Vitika Bhatt, although GIAN local coordinator, Dr. HJS Siva Prasad, he is out of the country, so he is not here with us. A warm and heartfelt greetings to each one of you present here. It is both an honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this inaugural ceremony of GIAN workshop. As told by the course coordinator, the workshop is on greenhouse management and technology. This workshop is being hosted under the banner of Global Initiative of Academic Networks, GIAN, and it reflects our collective commitment of integrating international knowledge systems and Indian agricultural practices. It stands as a symbol of our institution's vision to serve as a bridge between research, innovation, and real world agricultural transformation. We are honored to have with us today our chief guest, Dr. Deepa Vinay, Registrar and Acting Vice Chancellor. Ma'am, your unwavering support every time, every day for academic excellence and innovation is a continual source of motivation for all of us at CABM and across the university. We are deeply privileged to welcome our distinguished resource person, Dr. Krishna Nimali, Associate Professor at Purdue University. He 10 days. You have to be very attentive and take up what he is going to, whose thoughtful planning and dedication have brought this workshop to life. A special mention and sincere thanks to the local coordinator. As we confront the multifaceted challenges of agriculture like climate unpredictability, resource degradation, and the need for year-round high-efficiency crop production, the importance of greenhouse management in protected cultivation cannot be overstated. Workshops like this are not just academic events, they are catalysts for transformation. They offer a space to learn, question, and ideate. As Dr. Nimali has already given you that more you ask, be attentive or ask questions, you will learn more, and you will, with the guidance of the technology for precision farming and like other topics. All faculty, scholars, professionals, and students, for all of you, it's a unique opportunity. You are not only gaining access to international expertise, but also becoming part of growing global dialogue on sustainable agriculture. Let this workshop be the beginning of new ideas, collaborations, and innovations. Engage deeply, ask boldly, and think creatively. CABM has always believed in education that connects theory with practice, science with society, and local need with global thinking. This workshop is a testimony to that belief. I once again express my gratitude to Honorable Chief Guest Dr. Deepa Vinay for her inspiring presence. Dr. Krishna Nimali, we thank you for traveling across continents to share your insights with our community. My sincere appreciation to course coordinators, the GIAN cell, and all organizing members who made this possible. Let us commit ourselves to making the next 2 weeks insightful, collaborative, and impactful. I forget to name Dr. Ranjan Srivastava, who was instrumental to design this program. So I welcome him in the program. With these words, I wish the GIAN workshop on.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words. Now, finally, we are now privileged to request our esteemed registrar. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ritika. Good morning to all of you.
esteemed colleagues, researchers, dignitaries on the dais, Dean CABM, expert resource person, Dr. Nimali, coordinators, Dr. Ashutosh, Ritika. It is an honor and pleasure for me to stand before you and witness the inauguration of the training program on greenhouse management. I am thankful to the organizer for inviting me here and allowing me to bless you all on the topic in which my knowledge is nil bata sannata. I don't know anything about this. But thank you very much for inviting me here. So I will start with the umbrella GIAN word under which this program is organized. There is a Sanskrit saying which says Jnanam Param Dheyam, means the knowledge is the ultimate goal. And thank you very much, Dr. Nimali, for orienting me with this gyan of greenhouse management and technology and what you will do for 10 days. So thank you very much for orienting me and enhancing my knowledge on this topic. Now, if we talk of a traditional agriculture, all of us, we know that traditional agriculture is facing mounting problems. And the reasons are many. I'll tell you, when I joined this university in 87, 88, since I was in a project, we adopted 5 villages in the nearby areas to work. And these villages were Bhamrola, Niwadkheda, Lohariya Salmalla, Devariya. These were the 5 villages. And when I joined here, I'm from Rajasthan. So when I joined here, I saw lush green fields. And first time I witnessed transplanting of the rice. And I was so thrilled to see all these things, the lush green fields and everything. But now the situation is different. All the lush green fields have taken place by the concrete jungles. So the population is increasing day by day. And the need of an hour is to feed them, food security. Population is increasing, land base is shrinking. But I salute all the scientists. We do not have problem of food grain. Production is also increasing day by day. But certainly there are some other problems which we are facing nowadays. And one of them, as said by Dr. Shimali, continuous climate change. That is a biggest threat to our agriculture. And to solve all these problems, the solution is greenhouse management, which will be tackled in this training program. Greenhouse management, as said by Dr. Jadon, it is not a new technology. If you ask me what is greenhouse, then I'll say a polythene sheet house or a glass sheet house where the plant grows. I don't know the technicalities of this. But now, since the technology is changing day by day, there is need to introduce technologies in the greenhouse management so that especially the small landholding farmers of the hill areas, they can get advantage. They can contribute something in the GDP, or their income can be enhanced. And these technology can be, as all of us we know, machine learning and AI can be used for forecasting about the weather or for controlling the weather in the greenhouse. Beside that, energy efficient structure of the greenhouse. You will be surprised to know, like when myself and Dr. Nain, we had gone to NABARD building for some project work, and there I came to know that LED is used nowadays to make the structure energy efficient. I was not knowing this, and it was very interesting to watch all these things. If you, get time, you can take them also to visit such type of greenhouses where these technologies are used. Beside this, water conservation. As all of us know that water level is decreasing day by day. So the structure which we want to build, the technologies which we want to use them should be such that water can be conserved in that. And now technologies are available where 90% of the water can be saved in greenhouse this thing. So my best wishes to all the organizers and bearing me and listening to me where I don't have knowledge of greenhouse. I would like to have more discussion with Dr. Shimali. You are here for 10 days. So we will sit and we will chat about this and how we can make better this thing, and in future also we can organize such type of program for the undergraduate students. uh, Undergraduate, nowadays we are having NEP, new education policies is implemented in all the colleges, and the main purpose and the mission of this new education policy is to make the students self sufficient, that after graduation they should not ask for the job. We should give them some skills so they can start something of their own. So in that case, I think this type of a program will be very beneficial for the undergraduate students. They will learn more techniques, and if they learn from the experts like Nemali, then Dr. Nemali, then it will be certainly very beneficial for them. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for showering your blessings and the good wishes to all the participants here. So, as we conclude the inaugural function of our program on greenhouse management and technology, it is my distinct honor and privilege to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to all those who have contributed in making this program a reality. Firstly, sincere gratitude goes to our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Deepa Vinay, for her inspiring and insightful address. We are equally grateful to our esteemed guest faculty from Purdue University, Dr. Nemali, for setting a wonderful tone for the entire workshop or the program that we are going to have, and it truly motivated us, sir. Special thanks to Dean CABM, Dr. Jadon, for his unwavering support, especially when it comes to logistical support. He's always there for us. My gratitude goes to the faculty members for their support throughout, and I would like to thank Dr. H.G. Shiva Prasad, the GIAN local coordinator of the university, who supported us even in absentia. He's abroad right now. It would be less to mention the efforts of coordinator of the course, Dr. Ashutosh Singh, who has meticulously worked day and night and guided us literally to make this program a success. Thank you so much, sir. And I would also thank the participant for showing up on time and with full zeal and enthusiasm. It would be injustice if I forget to mention the efforts of student organizing committee, to name a few. We have Lakshmi, Bhagyashri, Kartike, Devas, Simran, Prerna, Pratishta. Everyone was working really hard to make this event a wonderful one. Thank you, people from media, especially Mr. Vikrant, who has come all the way from Chandigarh to broadcast everything live here, and also the supporting staff at CABM, who is working logistically.
Okay. Just person next to you, just introduce yourself, know each other. Just 2 more minutes. Um, I'm going to try hard and remember all of your names, but it might take a week for me. Tomorrow when you come, would you please bring a piece of paper, write your name, fold it like this, okay, and put it in front of you so I can know your names. I'll start practicing, okay, as I'm speaking. I'll practice your names, but I'll do that in 1 week. I need some time for that, okay? We'll do that. The second thing I want to say is academic integrity, okay? We want to be sincere. We want to respect each other, okay? Nobody's superior, nobody's inferior. We're all same, all right? We're here for learning. That's it. Only one reason, nothing else. We're here for learning, okay? Nothing more than that. If there is anything else, it has to be outside of the room, okay? In this room, learning. That's all we'll do, right? But put your 150% effort on it. Not even 100, 150% effort on it in terms of learning. Because I don't know, you paid for this program, right? So be honest to yourself and learn as much as you can. Ask me, stop me. There's nothing wrong. A scientist is a person who knows the mistakes in their research. I didn't say this, Albert Einstein said this. Okay? First of all, you need to know the problems you have, then you will actually learn. Unless you come out and say something, you will not know it is correct or wrong. It is totally okay to ask a wrong question. We're all students, all of us. We're all on a what we call a learning curve, okay? Some of us may be at there, some of you are here, doesn't matter, we're all on the curve. We're all learning, including myself. I'll be learning from you, okay? I will try to do my best. I'm not going to tell you that I know everything. No, I don't know everything. But I will do my best. If I don't know, I'll find the answer for it, okay? But I'll try to do my best. Likewise, you want to be sincere. Ask me, don't feel shy at any time. No need. We're all one unit, one group, including myself. Okay? All good? All with me? Yes. All right? Louder. All with me? Yes. Yeah, that's what I want. That energy is what I want. Okay? So today we'll start with this introductory class. This is like I don't want to really bother too much about this particular lecture. This is kind of giving you a snapshot about all the different things you will learn in the next 10 days. I'm going to talk about greenhouse designs, I'm going to talk a little bit about hydroponics, I'm going to talk a little bit about environmental control, just as an introduction, first class. But then we dive into light, temperature, water, nutrients, things like that, all the factors that plants require for their growth, okay? So just enjoy today's first lecture. It's a very general content, very easy content. That's the reason why I've actually typed everything for you, right? You can just read and go through, but this is the only lecture where you find that type of typing. From lecture 2 onwards, some bullet points, you got some space, okay? If you want to write it down, I'm hoping that you didn't receive these PDFs, you did? Yeah, if you have a laptop, you can type on it, that's great. If you want to write down extra material, feel free. But write down that some content. I have most of the content on the slides, but I may speak a little bit more than on the slides, so you may want to write it down. All right? They are trying to make this a PowerPoint presentation so we can see the entire slide. So what I want to do is let them do it, but I wanted to start by saying that, a greenhouse is simple structure, right? It is a structure. It's got a metal frame or a wooden frame, whatever it is. You cover it, right? When you cover it, you're confining whatever you go inside from external environment. So the external environment has a little impact, but truly speaking, even you cover it, there is an indirect impact of the external environment. You learn about it. If you put a cover on anything, it's going to get hotter inside. Right? Why is it happening? Why does it get hot? Anybody? I'm going to ask a lot of questions, okay? This is how I teach, all right? So feed is my airflow, so the heat builds up. That's called greenhouse effect, by the way. That is what they use for global warming, greenhouse effect. What you're doing is, you are creating an optimum environment inside. You're protecting the plants from rainfall, wind, insects, diseases. They're all being separated out. Then you're maintaining light and temperature inside. It gives you an opportunity to grow crops throughout the year. That's what the greenhouse is, right? A protected system. So he had a doctor. It can get pretty cold in there. So he was scratching his head and he ordered his gardener, said, I don't know what you do, I don't care. If you don't get me every day one melon, I'm going to get you up. Maybe he said, whatever it is. So this gardener got really worried. He doesn't know what to do. In winter it's cold. It's too cold that he can't grow melons or anything. And what Micah did was, it was allowing what? A little bit of light inside, but he built 4 walls around it, and so he could bring all of his cucumbers plants on a cart. So horses used to, carry those big parts, mud parts with cucumbers plants into this structure, cover it up. And that is how he used to protect them, especially at night times when it gets really cold. He used to protect the crops and then take them out in the morning. He's basically producing crops we we can say that it's sort of like a protected culture. Okay, they're still struggling with pictures, but let them do that. In the meantime, I'll keep talking. I know the content, so I'll keep talking. The next snows a lot in winter, so they have to protect their plants. So what they used to do is they used to build wooden structures called form of pipes to the next level where the plants are there. So they're heating it. Temperature control. That's another evidence we know that many centuries back, still people were doing it. The Dutch houses were also familiar. In the Netherlands, in 1600s and 1500s, they used to do the same thing to keep those bulbs, the tulips and beautiful bulbs, all the time, survive there. So we have some evidence that way back, these things were happening. It's nothing new. They were not calling it like greenhouses, okay? But the first kind of evidence for this sort of protected culture comes from England, UK. Okay, they built the glass houses. The glass houses, those big wrought iron structures, classical structures. The English were all about they were going all over the world. They were conquering different countries. So these people were picking up some plants, interesting plants from different parts of the world, and they had to protect them. Some of these plants are tropical plants. You can grow them only in India, maybe in Africa. But if you take them to England, they may die. So they wanted to build a glass house only to protect those plants. It was their property. Okay. Interesting thing. Because of those glass houses, glass became so popular in England. And they levied a tax on glass. Government said, oh gosh, everybody's using glass. We don't have that much glass, so we have to put a tax on it. So common man could not afford for glass. Glass was very expensive in England because of these things. You need a glass for windows, right? Otherwise cold air can come. So people used to put something else. Glass became so expensive. But just a digression there. But then modern day greenhouses are totally different. I can give you some more examples. Around 1650s, 1700s, there were some structures what we call orangeries. Orangeries, okay? I hope we had, they see it. I want to show you a picture of orangeries. Is this how it is? Let's use the arrow. Monitor it. Hold up. Where do you want it? Okay. So look at that. That is an orange. Okay. So you have all the content, so no need to worry about it. You can read it later. But look at that orange. What do you see in that picture? What is evident for you? Immediately when you see that picture, what does it tell you? It has got what?
Windows.
Big windows, right? Big windows. Why are those windows there?
Sunlight.
For light, right? For light. And those windows, they used to face south sides. So you are, India is closer to equator, but you go to European countries, to United States, winters are pretty dark. We don't get a lot of light. Because you're closer to equator, both during summer and winter, you get somewhat similar daylight, 12 hours of daylight. In the United States, where I come from, even at 9 o'clock at night, there's plenty of sunlight. Okay? It's fairly bright, even at 9 o'clock. In winters, we don't get any light until 7:30 in the morning, but by 5:30 p.m. it's dark. We don't get a lot of light in winters. Okay? Whatever light you have, that comes from southern side because of the angle of sun. Sun is on a low angle in winter, but that light comes from southern side. And that's the reason why those windows are facing south. You can see that picture next to that is sort of like a cartoon, but that's how it used to look. That orangery that is still in place. This picture is an orangery in the United States, in Maryland. It's a state. Maryland is a state, and they are preserving this orangery just as a historical thing. But it used to look like that. You see, people are carrying orange plants, citrus plants. Oranges. They were growing in pots and they used to bring them in winter inside those structures. That's why they were called orangeries. They were also pineries. Pineries. What are they growing if it is a pinery? Pine. Why would you go pines? What else? Pines. Pineapples. So they were growing pineapples. That's why they used to call pineries. George Washington is the first president of the United States. He had a pinery for himself. He used to grow pineapple inside that. Some examples of that. But, I will say before I go to this slide, I want to show you one more picture from this previous slide. Interesting picture. This is not moving back. Oh, there it is. Sorry, it might take a little. So look at that Google Earth picture. So this is Spain, okay, and it's called Almeria. All that white color, that's greenhouses. You are seeing it from space. You're seeing from space all that white color greenhouses. 26,000 hectares of greenhouse space. This region of Almeria produces vegetables for the entire Europe. Okay? Right below that is Mediterranean Sea. It's very warm climate. It's pretty hot sometimes. And they have a lot of labor coming from Africa. Similar things you can see in China too. China, Spain. These are the two. China, Spain. These are the two big greenhouse producing countries. Then comes many other countries, France and Israel and the Netherlands and maybe Kenya a little bit, US. Okay, these are the top 7 or 8 countries. But the two big countries are China and Spain. Spain dominates total Europe production. No one else. Because they got the sunlight throughout the year pretty close to equator. But I just want to tell you, this whole greenhouse industry, the greenhouses, from those initial fancy hobby style greenhouses, they completely became such huge commercial operations now. Okay? In different parts of the world you have different types of greenhouses, and that's what I wanted to do on this slide. So look at that, these are the 4 standard greenhouse designs you will see all over the country. So let's talk about A. Now these pictures are a little bit stretched here, but you might see it better on your own presentations. But that one top left A, that's called a Venlo style greenhouse. V-E-N-L-O, Venlo style greenhouse. Venlo greenhouses were invented in the Netherlands. You see, the Netherlands, the country, is right next to Germany. Okay, this World War II was happening, and Germany was invading everybody, right? In Europe, they were invading every country, and it was so easy for Germany to occupy Netherlands. It's just Netherlands is such a small country. Germany is a huge, big country. They even occupied France, so the Netherlands was like that for them. When the Netherlands got occupied, the entire country was destroyed pretty much. After the Second World War, there is a small town called Venlo. The name of the town is Venlo. Their engineers came up with this design. For them, the problem was winters. They get a lot of snowfall. It can get cold, but they want to produce tomatoes, peppers, solanaceous crops. So what they want to do is they want to come up with these tall greenhouses. These greenhouses are glass greenhouses. Okay. These are glass greenhouses, tall. The reason why they're tall is they want to grow tomato crops, wine crops, right? They can hang them up. But glass was also helping them. It allows a lot of sunlight, and you'll learn a lot about that later on. Glass allows a lot of sunlight, so they need all the sunlight. Tomatoes need a lot of sunlight to grow. So the glass was good. Glass also is another advantage of glass. These glass panes, they are put together, but there are some small gaps. Through that gaps, the air can escape, meaning the humidity is less in glass greenhouses. Okay, so there's some advantages. You'll learn about those things later. Don't worry too much now. But they came up with that Venlo style just because of the need. Now look at B. B is a slightly different greenhouse. We call them as solar greenhouses. These are more popular in China. Solar greenhouses are more popular in China. The concept is very similar to the orangery. But what you're seeing there is one side is a wall and the other side is the curb, okay? And that curb is facing south side, so just to let sunlight inside. At night time, what they do, they roll a blanket on top of that. The blanket holds the heat inside, so it won't get too cold. At night time, the polythene can, what happens is the heat can escape as a radiation, infrared radiation, and you learn about that. But they want to hold the heat inside the greenhouse. So because if the heat is lost, the greenhouse can get pretty cold and plants won't grow. So they put a blanket on top, just like we use a blanket, right, in winter when we go to sleep. Just like that, they put a blanket. That's a solar greenhouse. The heat comes from sun in the morning, everything gets warmed up. At night they close it, so keep the heat inside. Solar greenhouses are very popular in China. They're very cheap to build, simple structures, but they have acres and acres and acres of solar greenhouses in China. Now here is look at number C, what we call the Parag type. These are the greenhouses that I showed you in Almeria. You know, the 26,000 hectares of land. Those are the greenhouses. Look at that, it's a very cheap structure. There's nothing much there. There are some pipes, and then a polythene is put on top, and it's just covered. They want to protect it from rain, okay, and they want to grow everything inside. Very, very cheap structure. Those are called Parag style greenhouses. It can get pretty hot inside, but they want, the reason why they went for this is they just don't want to invest in a lot. They want to build a huge area, 26,000 hectares of greenhouse space. That's why they went down to Parag style. If you look at other parts, so here is a sort of like a sawtooth, what we call a naturally ventilated greenhouse. These are more popular in India, right? You might have seen these type of greenhouses everywhere. What you're going to see is sort of like a roof ventilation and a polythene cover. But the bottom line, what I'm trying to tell you all is, there are so many designs, but the driving factor for different designs is the local climate. If it is snow, like in Netherlands, they were going for tall glass greenhouses with a, sort of like a A-shaped roof. You have Parag greenhouses, solar greenhouses, and simple poly houses, naturally vented poly houses. All of them came up because of the local environment. Okay? So different types of designs are there. All right. So the commercial part of the greenhouse, the commercial greenhouse are totally different from those hobby style. That's what I want you to remember. The original hobby style were expensive, glass built, but they were not for commercial purpose. They were fancy hobbies. But nowadays it's not the case. It's all more commercial greenhouses. Okay. I also want to touch base a little bit on the cows. We kind of talked about glass, polyethylene. So let me explain a little bit more. Globally, there are 3 types of coverings you use for greenhouse. Those 3 are shown here. And you will learn about these coverings in detail when we go to the greenhouse designs chapter. But I just want to introduce the 3 major types: glass, polyethylene, and polycarbonate. Those are the 3 covering materials we use. These are the materials we use to cover a greenhouse. This material is so important. This is what is acting like a barrier, a boundary between external environment and inside of the greenhouse. Therefore, it is responsible, it is important for temperature control, it is important for light transmission, it is also important for stopping pests and diseases to get inside the greenhouse, right? But there are 3 major types: glass, polyethylene, and polycarbonate. Briefly about them, glass is expensive, okay? But glass has really long durability, meaning you can put a glass and for 20 years nothing happens. Long durability. Compare that with polyethylene. Polyethylene, you have to replace it every 3rd year. They'll tear away, sometimes the color changes to brown. Okay, so it's glass in that sense is much more. But it's expensive. Polyethylene is the cheapest. Right? So you have choices. People can choose whatever they want based on their situation. But then came the polycarbonates, and these came like in the 1950s. It's intermediate to both glass and polyethylene. Polycarbonate is about 10 years of life. It is not as expensive as glass, but it's also not as cheap as polyethylene. Okay? So people have choices, options. But again, if you ask me which is the most commonly used, 80% of the greenhouses globally use polyethylene. For simple reason, it's the cheapest material. We don't care, we'll replace it every third or fourth year. We don't want to invest a lot. Okay, so those are the three most important coverings, what we call glazing materials that we use. Okay, like I said again, this chapter is about introduction. We're going to dive into each of these and learn more about these things. So we talked about so far, the kind of like the history of the greenhouses, right? I talked about how the greenhouse became popular from Emperor Tiberius' time all the way to the Almeria commercial greenhouse, 26,000 hectares. The total change with time, right? We looked at some designs, isn't it? I've shown you Venlo styles, I've shown you, naturally ventilated greenhouses, solar greenhouses, paral greenhouses. We're now talking about generally what these coverings are going to be, right? Like that, I also want to talk a little bit about here temperature control. Okay. Now, we'll dive deep and do little math also in your activities later on temperature control, things like that. But I want to talk about two things. Whenever we talk about temperature, we are talking about two things: either cooling a greenhouse or heating a greenhouse, depending on your location. In summer, you have to cool a greenhouse. In winters, probably you have to heat greenhouses. Where I come from, we have to heat greenhouses. Outside can be 0 degrees Celsius in winter for us, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Crops requires at least 20 degrees Celsius, 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So when outside is freezing, you can't maintain the temperature inside unless you heat the greenhouse. So we heat that. We also cool greenhouse in summer. And an important major discovery that happened was this psychrometric chart. Now, we'll learn about the psychrometric chart, but what this tells you is that for a given outside temperature and for given relative humidity, it will tell you what will be likely the temperature inside a greenhouse. Okay? You can do mathematical calculations and you can tell that. That's what the psychrometric chart is used for. And that's why I put there. It's a company, it's a big company, Carrier company, it's an air conditioning company right now. But Carrier is the person who invented this chart, right? It used to be a box, and you used to have some plant material around it. Water will be trickling down. So what's happening there? What is the mechanism? Anybody can explain? How is cooling happening? Not condensation, actually. Anyone? Anyone else?
Actually, when the hot air collides or interacts with the plant material, which is wet by the
Yep.
water that is taken up by the pump,
Yep.
it transmits the hot air, ultimately turns cool when it get in contact with the cool surface, and then we receive the cooler air.
Exactly. She described exactly what it is called. Evaporate. What's your name?
So Ruchika.
Ruchika exactly said what it is called, what we call evaporative cooling. Evaporative cooling is the same thing that is happening in a clay pot. When you pour water in a clay pot, the water is cooler. Same mechanism. Egyptians, they kind of discovered this. They used to hang wet cloth on the windows, so people used to sit inside, and when the wind is blowing, you get cooler air inside. It's called evaporative cooling. And just to add to what she said, basically, the air, hot air, is coming in contact with cold water that's flowing through the plant material. There, the heat exchange is happening. The heat from the air is exchanged with water. Water takes that heat and it evaporates, right? Latent heat of evaporation. So water takes that heat, it evaporates, but the air is leaving the heat to water, so it gets cooler, and the cooler air gets into the facility. That is exactly how the greenhouses are cooled. We call it fan and pad system. All right? We call it a fan and pad system. And you will learn about fan and pad system, the details, specifications, how do you build a fan and pad system, fan capacities, pad, everything in this course. But that's how we cool greenhouses. A fan and pad system, and the method is called evaporative cooling. There is also another method called fogging. You just spray tiny, tiny droplets of water way at the top of the greenhouse where the heat is there, and the water does the same thing. Water absorbed will burn. We use natural gas or wood, even electricity, we create the heat and we distribute that heat into the greenhouse. We'll talk about that. That's a little less important in this area. Cooling is very, very important. Okay? But that's an important discovery. The reason I'm showing all of this is these are the important discoveries that has happened in the last 100 years that paved for that commercial greenhouses. The 26,000 hectares of greenhouse space, it just didn't happen like that. There were so many technologies, there's so many discoveries that has happened in the last 100 years that made this as a big, huge commercial industry. Okay, the discovery of polyethylene, and you can Google and see the polyethylene is a sort of like an accidental discovery. A scientist forgot something and left it out and went away overnight and came back in the morning and found something new there, and that became polyethylene. It's everywhere in our environment now, right? Everything is polyethylene bags. Okay, accidental discoveries. These are the kind of discoveries that paved for that huge industry. Okay, that's why I'm kind of pointing snapshots here and there, the important things. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about lighting, artificial lighting. Do greenhouses in this area, do you use lights in winter or at night time? You don't turn on the lights? Okay. But light is so critical. And even you don't use, you have to provide lighting. First of all, you have to measure the amount of light. And if the light is not enough, you have to add lighting in greenhouses. Okay? And this is called artificial lighting. Originally, we used to use what we call high pressure sodium lamps, HPS lamps. Again, this is just an introduction. Don't worry too much about these details. These are yellow color lamps. You know, if you have seen some pictures, the greenhouse looks yellow in color. But nowadays, we're moving on to LED lighting. Okay. And you can see all kinds of LEDs there. I just put some pictures here. The first one, you know, the artificial light that we discovered is called carbon arc lamp. You see that the 1A is carbon arc lamp. But I think the more important thing is the B, the halogen lamp, what we call mass, the incandescent lamp. That's the discovery Thomas Edison. You know, Thomas Edison discovered the lamp. That's the master one. And then we also have hydrogen sodium lamp C, and now you can see all colors of LEDs. But the most important LED is the blue LED. And I'll talk about that more. From blue LED, we can create all colors. And it happened in the 1960s. Some scientists in Japan discovered it. They got a Nobel Prize, actually. The blue LEDs are now so cheap, 10 cents, or maybe even less. I'm saying in cents. But $1 has 100 cents, like 1 rupee has 100. I say, likewise, $1 is 100 cents. It's just 10 cents is what that costs right now, the blue LED. From that blue LED, we put some coatings on that blue, and in doing so, we can get all colors we want. We can get green, we can get red, we can get far red, whatever colors you want. And that is the reason why LEDs are so popular. You can customize the colors of light you can give to plants. Okay. Later this afternoon, we'll talk about light composition. But LED discovery is another big thing that has happened that has paved for the huge growth of this greenhouse industry. Greenhouse designs, coverings so far, temperature control technologies, lighting technologies, and then the other one I want to talk about is hydroponics. This is another important technology that's paving way for huge adoption of this. Hydroponics is basically meaning growing plants without soil, right? I want you to remember this. The word hydroponics is used in a very general sense. For example, cocoa coir, that's what you call here, right? Coir, peat and coir. There's artificial media. They are also considered hydroponic media. Right? Okay? Hydroponics is not just pure water culture. You can do that. Okay? But these things are also important. So peat, coir, their discoveries, their optimization, composition, things like that, really pay. But the most important thing I want to talk about, a little bit of history, here is about Justus von Liebig. So this guy is a chemist basically, and he found out that plants don't really require soil to grow. He said that soil is just there to provide support. But if you can somehow come up with a support for the plant and then provide all the nutrients they need, they will grow. You see, this Sachs doing an experiment here. He has a small test tube where he filled it with some solution, and then he was started growing. It was like in what? I don't exactly know the year, but it was like in 1800s. He was actually able to show that hydroponics works. So without soil, there are so many advantages. You can now grow crops in the middle of Mumbai, in the middle of Bangalore, where there is no land. But you can use hydroponics to grow crops there. Why do you want to grow crops in the middle of urban centers? Because that's where people are. That's where demand is. You can provide fresh food to growing population when you grow with hydroponics. So there's another technology that's growing a lot. I just put some names of other scientists who discovered different elements for plants. So that discovery of what really plants need to grow. What is that fertilizer? People never knew anything. People thought, oh, you put some seed in the soil provides everything and they grow. But then came these scientific discoveries. People were actually figuring out, no, there is something else. There are some elements that plants take. When I talk about nutrition, you will learn about the 14 different elements that plants take from soil. Essential elements. And these people found them. You know how they found it? Very simple. They took the plants, they burned the plants, they made ash from the plants, and they analyzed the ash, and they found many elements, but 14 of them were essential. That's how they know these are the elements, and they know that the only way these elements are going into the plant is through the soil. So then why not just give them elements through water and take up the soil out of the picture? That's hydroponics. This technology, peat medium, coir production, pure water, nutrient culture, they're all paving way for rapid growth of this industry. Okay? So different things, right? From a simple hobby scale, I've shown you a picture where it's a huge commercial operation, but it just didn't happen like that. A lot of things were responsible for that. Designs, coverings, temperature control, artificial lightings, hydroponic crop production. All of these are important. That's why this industry is growing. Okay? And this is, I think, the last slide for this lecture. But the question I'm asking is, where is this going in the future? What will happen in the future? Yes, it's developing. In the last 50 years, it's growing rapidly. Where is it heading? Right? It's difficult to predict anything, right? If I ask you what's going to happen to you tomorrow, you don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. Right? Nothing's going to happen. But bottom line, we are trying to say what's going to happen tomorrow based on what we know from today, based on what are the challenges we are facing today. And that's why I put some points here. And the first thing is, like I said in my talk, they're going to play an important role in food supply. They're not going to replace conventional feed production. No, they're not going to replace that. It's not going to happen. Agriculture will be there, but it is going to supplement significantly. We may shift our model of business. A lot of technology will come into it. Sensing systems, IoT systems, machine learning, AI, to predict the environment, make automatic changes. Wow, the environment is changing. We need optimum temperature. Over there is less temperature. Over here, it's more temperature. How do we manage that? It's not possible humanly. But maybe AI systems, technology, sensor-driven systems may become much more. We're going to introduce those things to you today. Okay? Carbon footprint. People will make sure that we're using electricity, we're using natural gas, fuels, we're burning fuels. We want to make sure that the carbon footprint is at minimum. We're not going to cause any more, in the future at least, global warming because of greenhouse production. So that may happen. That's what I told you. Number of photons falling in 1 meter square in 1 second. Now where is this micromoles coming from? Who knows Avogadro number? Who knows Avogadro number? So what is that? 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 of what?
Number of particles in 1 mole.
Any number of anything, right? Number of anything. So that's called a mole. It's called a mole. This is what Avogadro has come up with. 1 mole is equals to 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 particles. Oh, okay. We are now talking about light particles falling in 1 meter square. Why not use the mole term? Because when you start counting, there are billions and billions of particles falling, And I can't simply say 3.5 billion particles per meter square. It doesn't make any sense. So we are now going to use the units for mole. So we are borrowing units from chemistry. Okay? But now we are not using mole. What are we using? We are using a micromole. What is a micromole then?
10 power minus 6.
A millionth or whatever. What is a million? Million is 1 followed by 6 zeros. So the mole divided by 1 followed by 6 zeros is a micromole. 10 to the power of minus 6, like you said, right? So that is a micromole. So now let's relate to the unit I just gave you. Micromoles per meter square per second. So if I tell you that, if I put a sensor here and it's giving me 30 micromoles per meter square per second, what am I talking here? 30 times 6.02 times 10 to the power of what? Micromole. 10 to the power of what? 17. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you don't understand, stop me here. Do you understand what I'm saying? No, I don't think you understand. It's okay, you can ask me. You can tell, I don't understand anything you are saying. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't matter. You can ask me. Let's do the math. I wish I had a board to show you. But what I want you to remember is this. There is a term called mole in chemistry. Somebody came up with that. Mole. M-O-L-E. All right? This guy's name is Avogadro. And he said, what is a mole? He said, mole is something very general thing. It can be of anything. But a mole will contain always 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 particles of that substance. It can be water molecules, it can be ice, it can be anything. A mole means 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23. What is 10 to the power of 23? 10 to the power of 23 means 1 followed by 23 zeros is a huge number. I don't know what you call it with. 1 followed by 23 zeros. That multiplied by 6.02. That is what he called mole. So basically what he's doing is, to put an analogy, simple analogy, I'll give you, let's say, a pile of paise, one paise. I don't think it exists anymore in India, but let's say I give you a big pile of paises, and I ask you to count them. Okay, you keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Rather than saying I have 2 crore paises with me, I'm asking you to convert into rupees. That's all. Rather than paise, tell me in rupees. Then you will say, okay, divide by 100, so I get it, right? It makes sense. Making a bigger one into a smaller one. That's what Avogadro did. Because everything he was dealing with in chemistry had lots and lots of big numbers, and he doesn't want to worry about those big numbers. He said, let's come up with a standard number, 6.02 times 10 to the power of 20, and call it a mole. Be done. So afterwards, everybody say, okay, rather than, these big numbers, I would say 10 moles, 15 moles. It used to make sense to people. 10 and 15 are easy to remember. So people used to convert into moles. It's very simple, making a big number into a smaller number. That's what Avogadro did. Okay? We are using the same thing with the light. Why? Because if I start counting those photons, they're like electrons. Tiny, tiny, microscopic things. Millions and millions and millions are falling on every second. It's impossible to give that number, big number. Why not use a mole and make it a smaller number? That's all it is. Very simple. Make sense? Does it make sense? That's what it is. But instead of moles, we're using micromoles. That's all. It's like instead of kilograms, we're using grams, or micrograms, or milligrams. We're using, instead of moles, we're using micromoles, a smaller number. All light measurements, intensity, come in that unit. Micromoles per meter square per second. Micromoles of photons falling in 1 meter square area in 1 second. That's the intensity. So if you go outside, sunny day, bright light, okay, you take a light sensor and you measure it. You know what the intensity will be? Approximately, you can get up to 1700 micromoles of photons coming down in 1 meter square area in 1 second. That is the amount of intensity of sunlight in that visible band, in that far band. Okay? But here I said 30 micromoles. Sunlight is 1700, this is 30. You see the difference? How bright sunlight is? 30 versus 1700. all of them in micromoles. But that mole concept, you see that sunlight in a meter square area there, right? 1 meter by 1 meter. And if I count all those colored red, blue, green photons falling in that 1 meter square area in 1 second, think of raindrops. So let's say you have a big plate, okay? 1 meter by 1 meter plate. You put the plate outside when the rain is falling. Let's say you place the tray outside for 1 second and bring it inside, and then you measure the water. It's very, very similar. Or instead of raindrops, I'm talking about photons. Simple analogy, okay? That's what intensity is. But energy is different. Energy, you take the wavelength of the light, and then you use hc by lambda formula, and then you come up with certain number of electron volts or joules of energy. Energy is something you get from wave nature. Intensity is what you get from particle nature. Two different concepts. But the most popular one is this, intensity, not energy. When we talk about plants, this is not correct, but this is what we all do. When we talk about plants, we always talk about intensity. We want to measure the light intensity. Okay? We don't really focus on energy. We consider all those photons similar, although they are not. Blue is having more energy than red. We consider all of them similar when we talk about intensity. We just measure the number. See, plants are very smart, right? They are actually able to sense the number of photons falling on them. The number of photons falling on them. That's what we are measuring with the sensor. Remember, the intensity is number, radiance is energy. Two different concepts, and they stem back to the concepts of wave nature and particle nature of light. That's what I wanted to talk about on this slide. Okay? When it gets close to 1 o'clock, can one of you remind me, please? Because I forgot my power adapter, and this watch is dead. So I need to wait for 2 days to get the adapter. So I don't have, unless I have used my phone. But if it is 1 o'clock, please remind me. 10 more minutes? Oh, it was right there. Oh, wonderful. We've got 7 minutes. I'll try to get as close as possible. Okay? Now, there's another concept, and this is the most important thing I want you to remember. DLI. Daily Light Integral. Anybody works in greenhouse, has a greenhouse company? Anyone? No? Anyone heard about Daily Light Integral? Now, is this being recorded? Okay. I will not say that. But I will say this. It's a very simple mathematical concept. Okay? Take the intensity. I'm going to start with 100 micromoles per meter square per second. So when I say micromoles per meter square per second, I'm talking about intensity, right? So I'm giving you a number 100. Okay? What does this mean? This means 100 micromoles of photons are falling in 1 meter square area in 1 second. Now I'm going to ask you, the same amount is falling, but not in 1 second, but I want you to count for the entire day. Right? Not 1 second. See, I put a light, artificial light on plants. Okay, this light is giving 100 micromoles per meter square per second. But it's just 1 second. I don't want 1 second. I want to know the total amount of light the plants are receiving in 1 day. How do you calculate that? So you start with what? How many seconds are there in 1 minute? 60. How many minutes are there in 1 hour? 60. So 60 times 60, 3,600. So you take 100 micromoles and multiply. Can one of you please do the math for me? 100, all of you do the math for me. 100 micromoles times 3,600. How did I get 3,600? There are 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. So if you do that math, you get the number of photons in 1 hour, isn't it? Does it make sense? So 100 micromoles are falling in 1 second. Now how many photons are there in 1 hour?
3,00,000.
You got a number, right? Hold on to that one. Now let's say I'm going to turn the lights on for 12 hours, right? So in a day, I'm going to only run the lights for 12 hours. So you take the 12 and multiply with that number, right? You got a big number now. You got a big number now, right? Now how do I make that big number small? I don't want any more micromoles, but I want now express that as a moles of light. So what do I do if I have to express by moles? You divide that by 1 followed by 6 zeros. Right? So let's do that math. All of you do the math, and if you're not getting the same answer, raise your hand. Okay? The question is, I am giving plants 100 micromoles of light, 100 micromoles per meter square per second for 12 hours. Same intensity for 12 hours. Just that, in one day, 12 hours dark, 12 hours light period. So how much total light did plants receive in one day? And I want to give me that number in moles. Moles per meter square per day. Okay, it's a very simple math, right? Moles, not micromoles. Moles. Okay, what's your answer?
So 4.32.
4.3. She says 4.32 moles of light coming down per meter square area in what? Not 1 second, right? It's in one day. Moles per meter square per day. Did anybody get the same number? 4.32. 4.3 to 4.3. What about this group? Did you get that number? You have calculator. Turn it on your phones. You have calculator, right? Yeah, go ahead and do the math. Very simple math. 100 times 100 is the number that I'm telling you, 100 micromoles, right? Times 60 seconds in a minute, times 60 minutes in an hour, times 12 hours in a day. Count the number of photons they receive. Count the number of photons they receive in a day, and they try to respond to those daily integral values. Okay, that's more closely related. DLI is more closely related to plant growth. And that's why I want you to remember that. You see that right there, the picture there, those are lettuce plants. These are leafy greens, like your spinach is lettuce. Okay? And on left side, we grow lettuce at 15 moles of light. 15 moles per meter square per day. On the right side, the same variety, same time started, but with only 10 moles. And you can see the response to plants. You can see that the plants with 15 moles grew bigger, darker green in color. They're nice structure, whereas the ones in the other ones are less light. They are a little bit yellowish. They're smaller in size. They're also elongating. So that's how important the light intensity is. I did not talk anything about energy, right? I just said moles, number, all the time. Moles. I didn't even care about energy. I didn't talk about energy. Still, intensity is so important. But rather than giving in micromoles, the sensor gives you in micromoles, you should always convert that number to moles per meter square per day. It's the same concept as micromoles. It's just a bigger number expressed on a daily basis. It's an integral value. That's what it is. Okay? So remember so far concepts. Light intensity, irradiance. We talked about DLI, daily light integral, DLI. Okay? It's 1 o'clock. I think I have maybe, 4 slides. I may need about 15 minutes. What can we do? 15 minutes will finish up everything. So that's the lectures for today. And then we can talk about, okay, let's do that. Alright, so we talked about light intensity, energy. Okay, now we're going to talk about light composition. Alright. Light composition is also called as light quality. You can also use the term light quality. Composition and quality are very same. Okay? So what does composition means? Composition, remember that PAR, what is the wavelength for PAR?
400, 700.
400, 700, right? So when I get to composition, you know what I'm asking? I'm going to 400 nanometers. What is the intensity of 400? What is the intensity of 401? What is the intensity of 402? For every single wavelength, I want to know the intensity. That's what the graph is telling, isn't it? Look at that, 400 to 700 on the x-axis. Y-axis is intensity, but you can follow that line, and for each line, if you draw perpendiculars to the x-axis, you will know the intensity of each waveband, each wavelength. I can also use this graph and measure the intensity of blue, green and red. You see the 3 bands there, blue, green and red colors? 400 to 500, I can total all of the photons in 400 to 500, I can say that is blue intensity. Then I can total all the photons in the green band and say this is green intensity, and I can also say this is the red intensity. When I take the total light, photons, 100 micromoles, and split it into 3 or 4 or dozens of wavelengths, then I'm calling it composition. That's quality. I'm now telling that, yes, there is 100 micromoles of light coming, but out of that 100 micromoles, 50 micromoles is red, 25 is green, and maybe 25 is blue. That is composition. Intensity just gives you the total number of photons, all of them together. But when you get to composition, you're splitting that into maybe 3 bands, maybe 5 bands, or maybe every wavelength if you want. We have sensors. A spectral radiometer is used to measure that intensity. That gives you a curve like that. And you can take that curve and you can point all the way to 444, way at the peak. Oh, that's like 0.75 micromoles. So we have 0.75 micromoles per meter square per second for 444 nanometers. For every wavelength you can get it, or you can combine them into wave bands like blue, green and red and tell how much blue light is coming, how much green light is coming, and how much red light is coming. When you split that intensity into individual wave bands, you're talking about light composition. Why is light composition important? This is one example. You see that picture down here on the right side? On the x-axis, you have wavelength. Again from 400 to, well, it's a little bit more than 400, but look for 470 nanometers, blue, green and red. On the y-axis is now photosynthesis efficiency. Okay? What do you see in that picture? Can somebody interpret that graph for me? Look at the graph. Which color of the light has more photosynthetic efficiency? Red.
Yellowish red, orange.
And then when you go to green, goes down, and the lowest is in what? Blue. So now it's not 100 micromoles of light. If that 100 micromoles of light has got 50 micromoles of blue, although I'm giving 100 micromoles, I'm giving 50 micromoles of stressful light to plants. That light doesn't increase photosynthesis based on this particular data, right? So photosynthetic efficiency is affected by light composition. Some wavebands are more efficient at photosynthesis than others, and I showed you the reason for why that happens on the picture on the right side. If you give plants red light, you see that electron in that electron transport path, it's getting excited, it's going up. But then if you give blue light on the right side, it is more excited than red light, but that there is excess energy there. But that excess energy is simply wasted out. That's why it's less efficient. Red has the right amount of energy needed for photosynthesis. That's why it is the most useful light in terms of vegetative growth. So it's not just the intensity that matters, it's also the composition. If somebody comes to you and say, hey, you have a greenhouse, we're almost done, 5 minutes. Hey, I'm giving you, you got to buy lights for your greenhouse, and I have a light that gives you 1000 micromoles. Good. But you should ask another question. What is that question? What is the composition of your light? And then he says, hey, I got a light that's got about 70% green light. Plants are green in color. Why don't you buy green light? Will you buy it? Not according to this graph. That's why composition is so important. But if I come to you and say, I got a light, it's got only 10% of the blue, maybe 10-15% green, and a lot of that is red light. Yes, and it may still give you 1000 micromoles, but still that is more useful because that favors growth. This is why composition is so important. Does it make sense to all of you? Why composition is important? I'm going to show an actual example here from our own research. You look at this. Again, lettuce plants, a little bit busy picture, but picture is better than 1,000 words. Look at that. There are 4 different varieties of lettuce. Lettuce is like spinach or your amaranth or whatever. It's a leafy green, okay? 4 different varieties, and each variety is grown with 3 types of light. Now, warm white, purple, and cool white lights. There are 3 types of light, okay? Down below in the table, I'm showing you what is warm white, what is purple, and what is cool white in terms of composition. For example, take that warm white. What percentage of that warm white is blue? 20%. You see that? Go to cool white, it has got 25% blue light. But then now look at the green light. The warm white has got 44% green, and the cool white has got 46%. Lot of green. Almost half of the light is green light. But then the other one, the purple one, the middle one, look at that. It's got almost 70% red light. So there are three different lights. We measure their composition and we grow the same varieties, and you see the picture now. I want several of you interpret that picture. Now the first question is, do all plants look similar in that picture? No. No. Which light is the best light? Regardless of the variety, the middle one, the purple one, the plants are bigger. Why is purple bigger? Why the plants are bigger in purple? By the way, I forgot to tell, all these three lights of same intensity, 350 micromoles. The intensity was not different at all. We only played with composition. And then you're clearly saying that purple is the best. This is right before your example here. Okay? Now, look at the color. You have a bluish color, bluish red color. Where do you see more of that color? Which light gives you that color? Now in some varieties there is no color at all, but in some varieties there is a bluish red color, right? Which light gives you more of that color? Does purple give you more of that bluish color? Or some other ones? Take a look at the picture. Cool white. Cool white gave the smallest plants, but the color is dark purple. You know sunscreen? Why do we apply sunscreen? To protect from high intensity energy, right? Plants have a sunscreen. You know what it's called? Anthocyanins. Anthocyanins is a pigment plants produce to protect themselves from excess light. And what is the color of anthocyanins? Purplish blue. Now go back and tell me why that cool white is purplish blue in color. It's got more anthocyanins. Why do they have more anthocyanins?
Sir, it
It has more of
blue, 20%.
blue and also more of green. Both of them have higher energy than red. So when you give plants with more energy, two things are happening. Their growth is going down, but some of the pigments are going down. Now anthocyanins for plants are like protection for protection. But for us it's a healthy compound. When we eat more anthocyanins, it's good for us. So here is a situation where kind of like a trade-off. I want big plants, but I also want healthy quality plants. When I sell it to my consumers, they are getting nutritionally high value plants, quality plants. So you can probably grow plants for almost 3 weeks with a lot of red light, purple light, and then just that last week, you may want to turn on your cool white light to just get the colors. You can do a little bit of tweaking, and that's only possible in greenhouses, not outside in the field, right? Just an example. But again, remember, this is the last slide, but again, remember, light intensity is one thing, but composition is also important. You need to know what is the color that is there in that light. I just showed an example. If you give lights same intensity but a lot of green, they don't do well. Okay? Remember that. And the last thing I want to talk about is photoperiodism. And you kind of explained that. Phytochrome. And I'm explaining in this slide, I'm telling you how phytochrome works. Photoperiodism. Okay? This crop is poinsettia. This is just like your chrysanthemums. Okay? But this is more of a holiday crop for us in the United States. Christmas time, we want to give gifts to people with the red, beautiful bracts, small pots. So we want them to flower right around that time. Okay? But let's talk about chrysanthemums. If you grow poinsettias, if you grow poinsettias in long days, what do I mean when I say long day? What is a day like?
Sir, more than 12 hours.
Should be more than 12 hours. Remember that, more than 12 hours. If I grow them, that's how they look. Do they have any colored bracts? They are green colored leaves all the time. They will never turn red in color. But when I put dark cloth, like we talk dark cloth, and reduce that photo period to 10 hours, then they start producing these beautiful red bracts. That's what we want to sell them, right? So how does this happen? How does this happen? How do plants know that it is dark and it's a short day or a long day? And like you said, it uses that pigment, phytochrome. So phytochrome exists in two forms. So it can be a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try and explain it very simple way. Okay? It exists in two forms. Phytochrome red, phytochrome far red. Two forms. Phytochrome red, phytochrome far red. Phytochrome red is called P subscript R. Phytochrome far red is called P subscript FR. Okay? Two forms. Two forms of phytochromes. PR, PFR. So in the morning, when sunlight is falling, the PR form absorbs the light and becomes PFR. Okay? When the light is turned off, there is no light, then PFR turns to PR. So it is a conversion between these two forms. These two forms are dynamic, they change. One form can convert to another form. When there is sunlight, PR gets converted to PFR. And when there is no sunlight, when it's dark, the PFR now becomes PR. Okay? You understand so far, right? So let's say if I have a long night period, what happens to the total amount of PFR? Well, PFR changes to what? PR during night time. Now I'm saying the night is quite long. So all the PFR has converted to PR. So the PFR amount is less. Remember this, right? Because the night is long, right? You have created more dark time. All of the PFR has become PR. That's what plants use. The percentage of PFR to total phytochrome, if that is consistently less, plants now know that it's winter, long days, short days, and less flower. That's how the PR and PFR phytochrome concept works in plants. It's the amount of the PFR that's the most important thing. Most active form of phytochrome is PFR, phytochrome far red. If that quantity is consistently less in plants, that is a signal that plants use to identify that it's winter and they should flower in short periods. Okay? That conversion. Okay, we'll stop here. I just want to review things that we talked about today. We talked about the radiance or energy, right? It comes from the wave nature of light. We talked about intensity. It comes from what nature? Particle nature of the light. That is, the term intensity is important. Okay? We are counting micromoles per meter square per second. From that number, we derived another integral number called what? DLI, daily light integral. Okay? And then afterwards, I showed you that it's just not the intensity. You may have the same intensity, but you got different colors. They may affect how plants grow. I've given you examples. The reason is photosynthetic efficiency. Red has the highest efficiency. Blue has the lowest. So you need to know how much light is there, intensity, but you also need to know the composition. Right? Quality. And then finally I talked about photoperiodism, which is another, it's not related to photosynthesis or growth, it is related to flowering. And I talked about phytochrome and phytochrome far red and how the total amount of phytochrome far red consistently, if it is less in plants, the plants then know that it's winter and it should flower. That's how it happens. Okay? Some very, very basics. Okay? Very, very basic. We're going very fast pace here. But this information should be sufficient. Next time you read a book, a textbook on light, this should figure out. I know what light intensity is. I know what DLI is. I know why composition is important. Okay? I will stop here. Sorry, it took a little longer than 15 minutes longer, but we had a little longer morning session, so I do want to complete. This afternoon we'll do a little bit math and fun stuff. I'm going to ask you to download some apps on your phone and we'll play with that. If there's a greenhouse, that'll be great. If not, at least they'll go outside and do something. Whatever was first.
Okay, fine.
I'll leave it to you, sir. Whatever you want to do.
Thank you, Professor. I will just speak to that
Please.
for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, please take it.
In fact, we are in a process of checking your names so that there should be no spell mistake while preparing your certificates. Despite taking all care, there had been some spell mistakes. Like in the name of Dr. Manindra Mohan. It was Maninder Mohan. It is Manindra. Because I know you personally, that's why I was very much cautious about the name of this gentleman. The same way, let me check it again. Miss Aditi Agrawal. ठीक है, तुम्हारा नाम मुझे पता है, अंचल करोल, मिस अंचल करोल, ठीक है, क्योंकि इसमें ये भी नहीं लिखा, डॉक्टर अंजू पाल, आप स्पेल योर नेम करेक्टली, मिस अर्सला सैफी, दिस इज भूपेश सिंह कोशियारी, एंटरप्रेन्योर फ्रॉम हल्द्वानी, दीक्षा आर्या, DIKSHA,
density, composition, photo period, things like that. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm going to come up with some activities with these tutorials, and when you do these activities, those concepts will, you will pretty much remember that forever. So that's the plan. Okay. So today's tutorial is probably going to be light. It's not going to be that complicated, but some of them might get a little bit more complicated. Please come. So that's what we're going to do. Did you see people still walking? No, they're all not. Okay. I don't want to go too far and then a bunch of people walk in, so we have to repeat that. So I checked with Dr. Singh, and he's going to get you these PDFs. Maybe in a couple of days. They are waiting for one more faculty member to add some more lecture content. So you will have these packets with you before that. But for today, you have to look into the main screen and do these activities. Okay. Take your time. There is some simple math calculations, but then take your time, and we can discuss one-on-one also. If you have questions, that's the meaning of tutorials. You get 2 hours, right? We can discuss, we can chat, and then maybe if you all finish early these tutorials, and if you have some time towards the end of the class, what we can do is we can discuss any other topic. Okay, if you come up with, okay, I want to know about this, okay, so we can sit down and chat. All right, so I also want to provide some additional information to you. Topics can be related to how does a student life in the United States, how do how do students do there, how do they get there, what's their path, what are the jobs that are there in this field, any kind of question related to science, education, things like that, we can definitely chat, right? Industry also, if you are from business, if you are from startup company, you can bring up some of examples from there, and we can talk about that as well. All right, that's it. Let's start with the first tutorial. The tutorial is on light intensity and composition. I need to I think it is touch screen, so yeah. So there are 9 of them. Okay, there are 9 of them, and let's go to tutorial 1 right here. So I have, my intention when I put these tutorials was that you'll have this packet with you, so you can read it, and so I can simply go over, but today we have to do on the script, right? Okay, so this tutorial is light intensity composition as I described, and I have some fundamental information up here. This is what you learned this morning in the class. We use what I probably did not mention was, I said that there are sensors, right? We used to measure light intensity or composition. We have sensors. Okay. I could not bring those sensors with me from the US because of the customs issues I may run into. So I was advised not to bring those sensors. I wish I brought them and showed you those sensors, but we're going to try and learn as much as possible about those sensors. So remember light intensity. Who can define light intensity for me from the morning class? Let's try that. One of you define light intensity. Okay, go ahead.
So it is the number of photons falling on a 1 meter square surface in 1 second.
And the units are?
The units are micromole per meter square
per second, right? Everybody agree with that? Everybody make sure you understand that, right? So how do you measure that? We use a sensor called quantum sensor. Okay, a quantum sensor is used to measure light intensity. The quantum sensor measures the photons falling on a unit area, meter square in this case, per second. But then you have to ask this question. You also learned about composition this morning. So what photons are being measured by a quantum sensor? The quantum sensor generally measure photons in the range of 400 to 700 nanometers. Okay, they don't measure the photons in outside the range. But there are companies that sell quantum sensors that measure light falling of the photons in slightly outside the 400 700 nanometers, the infrared far red light. Sorry. But let's focus on a quantum sensor. The classical quantum sensor measures photons between 400 to 700 nanometers. Only those photons. The other photons are not captured by the quantum sensor. Okay? How many of them are falling in 1 unit area per second? Right. Now, that is intensity, but before you do this activity 1, I want to describe about another unit called lumen or lux. They are also called foot candles. These are some of the units people used to use to measure light. Units, lumen, lux, or foot candles. They are meant for photographic purposes. The camera professionals, they use those. These are more related to images or the human vision. Okay, these units put more weight on green light. Now, why green light? Because our human eye, the human eye, please come in. Human eye has a particular pigment. We call this pigment as rhodopsin, and this pigment is very sensitive to green light. So we see, you see, for example, this white light that you're seeing up there, that has red, green, and blue, all 3 colors. When you combine red, green, and blue, you get white color. Okay, you can try that at your home. Take blue paint, red paint, and green paint, combine them in equal proportions, that becomes white color. Okay, so that's why these lamps are emitting white color. However, if you actually measure the composition, you will most likely see there is a lot of green light in that fixture. And the reason why they put green light, because this is an office lighting. This is what we use inside rooms like this and where people sit. So they put a lot of green light because human eye is sensitive to green light. It detects green light very well. And so that's why we see, even though the light is so low, we see it as a bright light for us. Okay? But for plants, it's not the case. If you look at plants absorb light, right? Do you know what pigment absorbs light? Not phytochrome. Phytochrome is a different pigment. Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is inside chloroplast, right? Chlorophyll. And chlorophyll absorbs 2 colors. Do you know what those colors are? Red and blue. Those are the 2 colors chlorophyll absorbs. Okay, and there is a good reason for that. I think there is an evolutionary reason why plant chlorophyll is more sensitive to red and blue, whereas the bacteria which evolved before plants, they were photosynthesizing too. Some of the bacteria in oceans, cyanobacteria, they used to photosynthesize, and they were absorbing green light. So plants don't want to compete with bacteria, so they started developing pigments that absorb red and blue, not the green, mostly, right? Now keep in mind, when I say red and blue, plants absorb red and blue, plants also absorb green light, by the way. Okay, so let's talk about that. It's a slightly different concept, but you need to know this. If you look at all those 3 colors, red, green, and blue, which are used in photosynthesis by plants, 96% of blue light is absorbed by plants. Most of the blue light, 96%. About 90% the red light is absorbed. But when it comes to green light, only 70% is absorbed. 30% is reflected back. That's why plants look green in color. The reason why this cap is green in color, because this cap, this material, is reflecting green light. That's how we see the color of this cap. Okay, what you see is what is being reflected from an object. Plants absorb only 70% light and reflect almost 30% green light. They absorb 70% green light, but they reflect 30%. Compare that green light reflectance with red and blue. Blue is only 4% reflected. Red is maybe 9%, but green, a lot of green is reflected. And that's why plants' leaves look green in color. Okay? So keep in mind, plants do absorb green light, 70% of green light. So in other words, if you give 100 micromoles of green light, they absorb 70 micromoles and probably approximately 30 micromoles are reflected back. Okay? But they reflect more of the green light, and that's why they look green in color. But after the green light is absorbed by the chlorophyll, green light is more efficient than blue light in terms of photosynthesis, simply because the energy of green light is in between blue and red. So red is of course the best, but then next comes green, and afterwards is blue. Okay, you have to remember that. It's all energy dependent. So, so going back, we use a quantum sensor, but unfortunately I don't have a quantum sensor with you. Is there an internet on this screen that I can access a web? Do you know? Yeah? But not now, but I'll ask you later on. But we can probably pull up some images and I'll show them how a quantum sensor looks. Possible, but we may take a look at it. I'll ask, I do not know. I'll probably check with Dr. Ashutosh Singh and see if they have. But I'll show you some pictures. It's a very simple unit. And I'll also explain a little bit about how it works later on after the activity is done. Maybe that's what we'll do. If you've all finished the activities quicker, we'll talk about the sensors, the technology piece, how the sensors actually work, and what are the important things you got to keep in mind when you take these measurements. Okay, and I'll pull some pictures from online web, and then I can show you that. But because we don't have those quantum sensors for this activity, I want you to download on your phones if you have phones. If you don't have phones, work with your friend who has a phone. But there are a lot of light meter apps. Okay, they're free apps. I just downloaded while I was sitting there. I went on to Play Store because I have an Android phone. I went on Play Store and I found something called Light Meter. It looks like a light bulb. See if you can find this one. This app. So this basically it looks like this, a light meter, right? Light meter. Okay, it just looks like that, a light meter. Okay, see if you can download it on your Play Store or whatever you're using a phone. It looks like a yellow color thing. Let's see if you can download the free app. Okay, light meter. Is that light meter? I'll get you to also something like that. It looks like a yellow color bulb. Yeah, light meter. See if you can find that app. Just download it. It's a small app, and then afterwards you can delete it if you don't want it to keep on your phones. But for this purpose, we'll use this light meter app. Keep in mind this light meter is measuring in lux or lumens. So it may give you a number, but that number is correlated with quantum sensors measurement. But keep in mind that that number is heavily kind of skewed towards green light. Okay, but for this purpose it's okay, because the purpose is not about the sensor. The purpose of this is to kind of show you, compare light intensities in different locations. Okay, just let me know when you all downloaded that. It's easy, you can just download that app. Okay, so originally what I was trying to do in this particular activity 1 is to kind of look at the transmission. Okay, so you have a greenhouse and light is coming through the greenhouse. You learn about greenhouse shape and design, how they have influenced light transmission later on. But what is important is, you want to know is, not all of the light gets into the greenhouse. Okay, some of the light is reflected back, and some of the light is diffused out to different sections of the greenhouse. So use that material should allow most of the light to get inside, so plants can use it. But what you will find in a greenhouse is that light transmission is going to be highly variable. Okay, so we think that when I say greenhouse, wow, it's a protected system, it's all uniform. No, it is not. It is not going to be uniform. Okay, so what I originally wanted was to actually take this light meter to a greenhouse, measure the intensity outside in the sun and also inside the greenhouse at different. Okay, your goal should be to make that transmission as uniform as possible. Where there is more light, the plants will grow bigger, and other parts when there is less light, the plants will not grow there. So you will end up with a crop that is not uniform, big, small plants, and that's not good. It will reduce your profits. You want a very uniform crop. The uniformity itself can increase the yields by 10-15%. So you want to make sure that the crop is uniform. And for one of the major factors that are affecting crop uniformity is the light transmission. And therefore it is affected by, of course, by the glazing material. So in order to do that, you need to measure how much variability is there. Always keep in mind, as a scientist, data is powerful. Don't go by assumptions. Don't go by somebody said something. Validate yourself. How do you validate something yourself? You collect your own data. Having the data in your hand is actually more useful than simply believing in what somebody said. Okay, so what we'll do is, because you arrived a little bit late, I just ask everybody to download an app on their phone, and I'll open it up. This is the app. So if you can download that app. So what I want you to do is take your phones. So the first activity is about. So I'm going to. You can read this activity. Measure light intensity using your phone outside. Okay, outside in an open area. See, you want to make sure that you're not being shaded by a building or a plant or anything. Just in an open area, measure the intensity in lumens. That's all right. Take your time. No worries. But measure the intensity outside. Okay. Just go to an open area. Measure the sunlight intensity. All right. You got it. So please show her outside. Did you find this one? No, it just looks like that. Light meter. Alternative will also work. If you can find something that measures light, that's okay. You don't have to stick to this one. If you find something similar like a light meter, yeah, you can use it. Okay, but I want you to take your phone. For example, if I go closer to the light, you will see the number goes up to 1100, 1200. But I come away from that, it goes down to 400. So it's measuring not. It is not measuring the photons of red, green, and blue. It's not intensity, but it is related to that. Okay, the ideal way to do this activity is to give you a quantum sensor and ask you to measure outside and in the greenhouse. Unfortunately, we don't have a quantum sensor. Yeah, that's okay too. You can try that. Lux meter too. Unfortunately, we don't have the quantum sensor with us, and also we don't have a greenhouse with us, right? So we have to do something different. But the concept is important. So I want you to get an idea about what we are actually doing, and then you can repeat that wherever you go back, and if you have a greenhouse, you repeat the same thing. Now again, keep in mind what you're measuring is lux, not micromoles per meter square per second, but this is related to micromoles per meter square per second with some linear relationship. Okay, so in this activity, in the greenhouse, measure the light intensity at 10 different locations. So we don't have a greenhouse. So what do? Well, what we can do is, just to do this, why don't you go outside, record the values outside, whatever the number is, but don't measure it one location, because it's always a random number. Measure in multiple locations outside too, maybe 4 or 5 locations, but make sure that it's not shaded, it's fully sun, open sky, and record those 5 or 6 numbers in a piece of paper. Come inside. Let's consider that this is a greenhouse. Okay, this is not, but we're going to assume that this place is a greenhouse, and I want you to pick maybe 10 locations in this room, and then go there and make a measurement. But keep in mind, I want you to make the measurement outside and also inside at the same height. Okay, if you're going to measure at this height, okay, I don't want to go to that corner and measure at that height. Right there, you are creating a variable, confounding factor. Okay, but make sure that you are on par and approximately the same height. Get 10 measurements. Okay, record the data and then come back to your tables. Then we'll start making some calculations. Okay, just go around outside, make some 5 measurements outside, and then come back, randomly select. Let's see how uniform the light is inside this, and then also see how much. And it's not transmission, but I'll get you, at least give you an idea on what we can do. Okay. The speed, temperature, ISO. No, just the lux number. We want that lux number. I don't know why that's not showing up. So you couldn't find this app on your phone. See, this gives you a number, nice number like this. Okay. One. iPhone, may. Okay, let's see what you're getting here. You're getting temperature in Kelvin. Okay, that's not what we want. There's no other app. Let's see what apps you have. So no, you type light meter. You type light master. And that's why probably you're not seeing it. Light meter. Okay, now click that one. Let's see what apps can you find. Let's see here. So is this what you downloaded?
200, 400.
Oh, is it showing a number?
Yeah.
Can you take it closer and see if that number goes up?
Yes, sir, I did.
As you get closer to the light, it should increase, right? Do you get it? This is that's not what. No, that's giving you something else. That's why I'm worried about it. What do you see at that height? How much of the light do you see there?
Let's check the another app.
Yeah, I think that's better. There are several apps. I know why. See, I have a light meter app here. There is another one called another light meter here. So let's see if we can find something that is better for you. So is this what you downloaded?
No.
Let's try that luck.
Photo light meter. ये open किया.
Okay, all right. Then let's try something else. Do you have what is this AI?
Light meter.
The same one?
Yeah. No, it is AI lux light meter.
Let's try that if that shows the numbers for you.
This one is advanced. Yes, sir. Lux light meter pro.
That may ask you to pay when you say. Oh, no, don't pay. There are a lot of free things. That's why I want to.
मिल जाएगा कोई ना कोई सर. Actually today's election है हमारे ना election.
Yeah, you went and voted.
Yeah. So I rated.
Yeah, it's showing you numbers. Sorry? It will fluctuate. It will fluctuate. A light is highly fluctuating. So take your best guess in that range. A best guess. So it's like 230. Oh, it's changing a lot because my hand is closing it. But if you place it somewhere where there's no obstruction, 490, 480, 490. So it's in that range, right? 485, something like that. Okay. You got these numbers outside. So you see how high they are, right? So that's good. Now take that same meter and randomly select 10 locations in this room, but at the same height, and record those numbers also. Okay? On this page of paper.
Sir, this is paid one. 3 days free trial.
You have to pay for that.
ठीक है आप दिखाऊंगी.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you use my phone?
Yeah.
Why don't you both take my phone and make the measurement so you collect the data, and why don't you combine both of you? If it locks, I'll open it for you. But as long as you do something like that, it won't lock for you. So why don't you take some measurements together, collect them, and then we can come back and we can do some math inside it. Yeah. Did you get your app on you? You have some numbers already. Oh, you're sharing. So you're going to go back again and collect some data. Oh, so you're sharing the work. You don't want to work too much. Reduce it 50%. Okay. So make sure that you measure the same height, even inside, also outside. Okay. But 10 locations. What I want you to do is, I think on August 2nd, I think you're visiting a greenhouse. I'm pretty sure you're going to a greenhouse. So you can do the same measurements there with your phone app, okay? Unfortunately, I won't be available on that day to accompany you, but you can try that, okay? So what we want to now do is, we want to first do some calculations. What we want to do is called percentage of light transmission. It's a very simple calculation, transmission percentage. So what I want you to do is, you see the formula there, transmission, it's always measured in percentage, okay? It is 100 times greenhouse light intensity. It's a spelling typo there. whatever you measured in this room is greenhouse light intensity, and what you measured outside is the outside light intensity. In real world, you have to measure inside a greenhouse. Unfortunately, we're not doing it. But at least you will now know the procedure. Okay, you have a phone app. It's not exactly a quantum sensor, but at least something that will tell you how much light is there. But then now, when you divide outside intensity by greenhouse, greenhouse intensity by outside intensity, you get some sort of percentage transmission. Okay, here the transmission is 0% because the roof is not going to transmit any outside light. But in a greenhouse, you get some light through, right? That's what you're trying to calculate. But the formula is same. The numbers, the percentage you're calculating may not make total sense because this is not a greenhouse. But that's how we calculate percentage intensity transmission. Sorry. You will also notice that in this case, the inside light, what is that number? Approximate. What is the average of the numbers you got inside? But that was outside, isn't it? What about inside? About 80? 280. Okay. Now keep in mind, if I measure right under the light, okay, at this height I get 500. I just go a little away, it can increase to, well, in this case it's pretty uniform. It is uniform. But what I want to tell you is, I think he brought up the point, every sensor is different. Okay, this is a cheap app that what you need to make sure is that you don't want to compare your number with your friend's number because they have a different phone, a different app. But to keep your comparison apples to apples, meaning you are making proper comparison, you have to calculate the transmission. Now, when you do the transmission calculation, those percentages probably will be closer amongst all of you. You may have a phone that gives you always a higher number, or you may have a phone that gives you always a lower number, but it is going to give a higher number or a lower number for both numerator and denominator. So that kind of cancels out. So your percent transmission most likely will be similar across everybody. Okay. Again, keep in mind that percent transmission doesn't mean anything because there is no transmission in this room. What you're getting is through artificial light. Okay. But it's probably not even 10% in your case when you do that, right? However, if you are in a greenhouse and if let's say it's a polyethylene greenhouse, it's a plastic covered on that one, okay, and that plastic is fairly new, you should at least see 75% transmission. Okay, the moment the transmission starts going down, it's time to change the plastic. That's why it is so important. So we expect that it is as high as 85%. I've seen some of the polythene that goes up to 83 to 85%. But what happens is with this polythene, they add a lot of additives. They provide, they add chemicals to polythene to protect the polythene from UV light. Sometimes anti-fog chemicals are added. Sometimes infrared reflecting chemicals are added. When all these chemicals are added to polythene, its transmission goes up. But usually polythene about 83 to 85%. So on the first year, if you're a greenhouse grower and you put a polythene and you measure the transmission, you get something like 80%. 1 or 2 years later, you're measuring 70%. That tells you that it's time. That polythene is old. It's no more of use. It's lowering the intensity of light. It's going to cost you more because the plants are not going to grow well. It's better to replace that with a new polyethylene. Okay, but usually you will see that the transmission under polythene is close to 80%, 75 to 80%. If it is glass, you will see close to 90%. What means is, if when you're measuring, let's say 20,000 outside, inside you measure 90% of that, meaning 18,000 micrometers. Okay, glass has high transmission than polyethylene. Polycarbonate in between glass and polyethylene in terms of transmission. Okay, but you need to measure transmission for 2 reasons. You need to know how uniform is your greenhouse in terms of lighting. You want to make sure that everything is uniform. If not, there is some problem with some structure. So if you notice that some patches are always getting low light, once you know that, either you can avoid growing anything in that patch, or you want to grow plants that need less light. Okay, some species require less light. For example, let's say you're doing a business where you are growing tomatoes and also leafy greens. Okay, Leafy greens in general require less light compared to tomato. So once you know that, oh, there is a transmission problem in that area, let's grow, in that case, leafy greens there. And wherever there's high transmission, let's grow crops like tomatoes, which require more light. Okay, so that's how you can use that information. And also you can use that information to replace the roofing material, glazing material. When it gets old, transmission goes down. That's another reason. But I want you to do the same thing when you go to the greenhouse. Measure the intensity outside before you get into the greenhouse with your phones. Just 1 or 2 numbers. Go into the greenhouse and measure few places. You will immediately see that 2 things will happen. The light numbers that you're measuring will be fluctuating a lot. That's the real deal. Photons are falling, and they are falling randomly, so it's a highly fluctuating number. A little bit increase in height of your phone will make a big change in the number. So make sure you'll observe that. But as you are walking in the greenhouse, different locations, keep recording the data. And you come back and do the same calculations, as this activity at some other point. Okay, so that's how you calculate transmission. Greenhouse intensity by outside intensity. It's a very simple, and multiply that by 100 to get the percentage. But that transmission gives you a one single average value. In research, always keep this in mind. People go with averages. So let's say a simple trial. Okay, you are comparing 2 fertilizers, A and B fertilizers, and you get yield for A and you get yield for B, and you look at the average yield for A and average yield for B from different repetitions or replications, and then you compare the average. That's okay. But it's also very important to know how much variation is there. A lot of people don't look at variability, but that variability is telling something. It's highly important economically. So I may have an average here for A and an average value here, a little bit lower for B. But if this is highly variable, meaning the error bars are big, they are not different statistically. When you run statistical analysis, if there is more variability, even though the means are different, they may not be statistically different because there's a lot of variability in that measurement. So you have to pay attention to variability. Many ways you can calculate variability, and one simple method is standard deviation. In Microsoft Excel, there is a simple formula. You select everything and say equals to STDEV, standard deviation of the data, and throws the value for you. Okay, and that's what it is. Basically, standard deviation is calculated as xi minus mu by n minus 1. So xi minus mu whole square by n minus 1. What is xi is, let's say you measured a value here, light intensity, another value here, another value here. You get the average of these 3. That is mu. Mu is the average of these 3 values. Xi is this value, is x1, x2, x3. So for x1, you go take this value and subtract it from mean, square it, divided by, in this case, I have taken 3 measurements. So n is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. As simple as that. So here is x1 minus mu, here is x2 minus mu, here is x3 minus mu. Whatever the difference, add all those 3 things and then divide by n minus 1 to get the standard deviation. If you don't want to do all the math, go to Microsoft Excel. Type your x1, x2, x3 values. Select all 3 and say STDEV equals to STDEV of that range, and it gives a standard deviation. So you get standard deviation. So now you have a mean value, you have a standard deviation value, and I'm going to now talk about a particular measurement. Some of you may have done that in your math classes. It's called coefficient of variation, CVs, coefficient of variation. If CVs are more than 25%, then whatever you are collecting, that is highly variable. That may be a problematic situation. In research or in experimentation or in production, whatever it is, your CV should be tighter. The variation should be less. When you measure light intensity at different locations, they should be tight. That tells you how uniform the data is. That tells you how uniform the light transmission is. So I want you to calculate CV, and there is a simple formula for CV. It's standard deviation over mean times 100. That's it. Okay. You calculate standard deviation, you calculate mean, and CV gives you that. And if you are finding that it is 35–40% in that greenhouse, that means the greenhouse has a problem. It's got a light transmission problem, highly variable. We can tolerate up to 30%, but if you are seeing CVs of 50–60%, I think it's time they do something. It's highly non-uniform data. Okay, ununiform data. So uniformity is the key thing, and light transmission should be uniform, And this is the measurement we want to see end of the day. The CVs should be low, 25, 20%, pretty good greenhouse. Light is uniform inside. So now we have come to a measurement, a calculation that will tell us, is that light transmission uniform or not? Light transmission is easy. You calculate by dividing, outside light intensity, and once you know outside light intensity and greenhouse light, you can calculate transmission. But the question is it uniform or not? And for that we need a measurement, and that's what the CV is. Okay. So what I really want you to do is, I thought we could do sort of like a mathematical calculation. But when you go to the greenhouse, prepare a table like this. I hope that by the time you'll get your tutorials packet also with you. See here, location 1 to 10, right? That's exactly what you did here, right? Do the same thing in the greenhouse, 1 to 10. And at each location, measure the intensity in, well, it says micromoles, but you're not going to get micromoles, right? In this case, you have to use your lux meter. So put those numbers here, okay? And then you see here, outside light intensity. Measure it outside before you go into the greenhouse, 2 or 3 locations, and put an average and calculate transmission percentage at different locations. Okay. After that, you calculate the mean, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation, and come back and know in sometime in August, 5th or 6th or 7th. Let's see how variable that greenhouse is transmitting light. Does it make sense? How to do this simple light transmission calculation? Most importantly, not just light transmission. From that data, how can you say if the greenhouse is uniform in terms of light transmission or not? Calculate the CVs, coefficient of variation. Okay, but you got to do at 10 different locations. There are some important things to keep in mind. You have to keep your phone at the same height. A little bit of lowering or hiring will change the numbers. So that's not the real issue there. Then the problem is you are causing confounding effects by changing the height. So make sure that you measure the same height, but at random locations, different locations. Okay, and then fill up this table at some other point of time. Okay. So that's the transmission, first fundamental simple thing. Every grower, every person should do, unless their light is uniform inside the greenhouse, it makes no sense. They are creating a problem otherwise. Okay. All right. That's the first activity. This one I think you can do right here. Remember, we talked this morning about energy concepts, right? Each photon carries some energy, right? And there was an equation. What was the equation? Can anybody tell me that energy equation? Right? E is equal to hc by lambda, right? So that's what we want to do. And I want you to calculate the energy of photons of 385 nanometers, 450 nanometers, 550 and 620 nanometers using that equation. I gave all the information to you, but the most important thing is, you see here, calculate the energy of photons with the following wavelengths and convert the values into electron volts, EVs. 1 joule is equals to these many electron volts. So it's just a little math problem. You will need your probably calculator on your phone. But I want you to get that. Once you do for 4, you will not forget that formula. Okay? Let's do that simple math. Hc by lambda. Okay? You will get energy in joules and then convert it into electron volts. And I want to see how many electron volts are there in UV, 385 nanometers UV light, in the blue, in the green, and in the red bands. Okay? Take some time, maybe 10 minutes. Even if you're faster, that's good. 5 minutes. Let's see what EV values you're all getting. Hc by lambda. H is Planck's constant, and the value is right there. 6.63 times 10 power minus 34 joule seconds. C is the speed of light, 2.99 times 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. Okay, minus 1 means per second. Right, and lambda is the wavelength, and that is given here in nanometers, but you have to convert it into meters. So read the information there. There's a lot of information there. So once you do for one, you will get it easy for the others. There are a lot of conversions in that calculation. Okay, do it independently. Do it yourself. It's okay if you make a mistake, but we can correct it. So I want to mention one thing to all of you. Look at these units. For Planck's constant, the units are joule second. Okay, so that is H value, right? You take, let's not worry about the numbers, but let's look at the units first. So it's joule seconds, right? You take joule seconds and you multiply with C, H times C, right? Units of C is what? Meters per second. Here is joule second and here is meters per second. So what happens? The second gets cancelled, right? So you end up with what? Joule meter up to this point. Then now you divide by lambda, Hc by lambda. The lambda is in what? You want the lambda to be in meters. These are nanometers. You have to convert this into meters by multiplying by 10 power of minus 9. But then when you convert it, the lambda becomes meters. So joule meter by meter gives you joules. So the energy is measured in joules. Okay. So units kind of cancel out. You should get the values in joules, and then you take that value and multiply with this to get in electron volts. Okay. Simple math. Well, I want you to do all of these, and then we'll compare the numbers amongst us. Okay. If you finish all 4, that's great. You should see a trend here, an increasing energy as you go from 385, I'm sorry, a decreasing energy as you go from 385 to 620. If you have a laptop, it's so easy. You just plug in those numbers into Excel and it'll give you, right? But also do it by hand, so you will remember that. Is it making sense? Anybody is having a problem with calculations or the logic? This makes sense. It should be a simple thing. Has anyone finished all 4? Okay. A few of you. Okay. Just gives a few more minutes for others to finish, and then we'll compare the numbers amongst all of you. This for me? Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Who needs more time? Please raise your hands. If you need more time, please. It's okay if you need time. I just want to know how many people are still working on it.